Folks, now that we've had a little distraction there this morning, which is always entertaining. I love it. September 26, 2024, it is 10 a.m. and we're going to call this meeting of the Denton County Transportation Authority Board of Directors regular meeting to order. First up in the agenda is our invocation, and Judge Eves, Andy, would you mind?
I'll be happy to. The invocation, sure. Heavenly Father, thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for our strong and healthy bodies. And please help us to remember those who are less fortunate and those that this agency can serve in a mighty way to help change their life and get them to where they need to go. Thank you for the opportunity that we get to live in America and in Texas and in this wonderful county that we call Denton County. In your name I pray, amen.
Since you're over there, would you mind the pledges?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On our Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Mr. Christina, we have any introductions to make this morning?
Yes, sir. We have two. First, I'll invite our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Cheryl Evans-Jones, to make an introduction of a new staff member.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am pleased to I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Michelle Soiseau. She is our new finance specialist. She moved to Texas from Ohio, where she worked as a senior finance specialist in the medical field. As we were talking during her interview process, I realized that she was several months into moving into Texas, but I was explaining to her that she's not officially a Texan until she makes it to the other side of her first summer. So I'm pleased to welcome you to Texas Hood. We have made it to the other side of that. Fun fact about her, she's a big DIYer and has remodeled kitchens, taking them down to the studs. I don't know if you want that publicly known because I see people getting ideas and stuff, but we're pleased to have you as a member of our team. Looking forward to working with you and having you grow professionally with DCTA.
Thank you so much.
And then Mr. Maurice Bell, our Chief Operating Officer, has an introduction.
Well, I finally get an opportunity to introduce a new member to the team of ops, and that is Miss Dorothy Fawcett. Dorothy Fawcett comes to us from way of New Jersey, so she's coming from the East Coast. I came from the West Coast, so it's great. We're getting ready to meet up with more people. And she has a strong background in administrative support. She will be heading up our records retention program, where she's putting everything together to make sure that we're complying with all rules and regulations. So please welcome Ms. Fawcett.
All right. Next up on the agenda, all my screens keep turning themselves off. We're gonna have to fix that. Next up, we have public comment, and I do have one public comment card from Christine Bray.
Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? All right, so this comment is going to be about Discovery Park 149. If y'all aren't familiar with that route, I'd encourage you to pull it up on your laptops or whatever. But DP 149, Discovery Park, is a new route that goes from UNT to Discovery Park. But unlike the old Discovery Park route, it doesn't go up Bonnie Bray, which is quite congested at times. It goes up Carroll and then jogs over to Locust Elm to go over to Discovery Park. So I like this route, very exciting. I'm glad that y'all are experimenting with new things to try and get, I assume, like more reliability, more speed out of this. My only ask would be, since this is a new route that goes on portions of road that no other route in the DCTA system goes on, specifically it goes right by Kroger, which lost bus service a while back. I would just ask that y'all consider adding a stop, maybe reroute it so that it goes up to Sherman and then heads over. And that way you could get a stop directly next to that Kroger. And then maybe one where it intersects with 7 at Hickory Oak on Carroll, and then Coronado and Coronado and Windsor on that north end, just so that folks have easy access to that Kroger, whether they live in the apartments around Coronado or whether they're transferring off of 7 or transferring off of 6. And that way we could just get a new, I think, very valuable destination into the route network as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further public comments. We'll go ahead and move into consent agenda. Got 5 items on that. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes unanimously. Regular agenda, item 1, discuss and consider fiscal year 2025 election of board officers. Paul?
Yes, sir. By the DCTA Board of Directors bylaws, the board is to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary on an annual basis, the term of which runs October 1 through September 30th of each fiscal year. And so this item is oriented to provide you discussion and the ability to do that.
I'm just finishing the first year. And I'd be more than willing to do a second. I know we had talked about this, doing it as having some continuity.
I'd be willing to nominate Mayor Gilmore just for the second term as chair.
I'd second that.
Okay, well, we'll knock that one down then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you
Opposed?
for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I really enjoy working with this board. It's a great team. And I think we're making some huge strides and looking forward to next year and our refocus on rail. We do need a vice chair at this point, and don't know if Cesar's interested in another year, or if we have someone else who might be interested in that role.
I'll be happy to serve another year. You have to make that motion.
And I second that.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, team. Appreciate it. Secretary. We do need a secretary. Who's secretary now? Judge Eads? Judge, are you still?
I'll be happy to do it.
I'll be happy to nominate it. All right, that's second. I have a motion and a second. Lots of happiness around the table. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Chair, I just want to, echo my sentiments towards you, toward the rest of our officers. Thank you for the service that you've provided. We really appreciate particularly your work down in Austin, advocating on behalf of our agency.
Oh, yeah, that's coming, isn't it? Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Allison. All right. Moving on, discuss and consider approval of a fiscal year 2025 transportation reinvestment program pre-award application for the city of Louisville in the amount of $488,351. Marina Maldonado, our planning manager, will be taking us through it.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, this is the second time you see me and I think you'll probably keep seeing me, so I apologize that you have to stare at my face. So I won't take too long on this item. I think we'll kind of go through it pretty quickly. So as you mentioned, we're here to discuss a pre-award application from the city of Louisville. Staff is recommending approval of this project as it does meet the goals and intent of our long-range service plan. But before I do that and go into detail, just a quick reminder of what the Transportation Reinvestment Program is, TRIP. So it is our financial assistance program for capital projects, for transit supported projects that support our long-range plan and align with our mission of improving mobility, air quality, economic development, and livability in the areas that we serve. So this is an image that you did see at the last board meeting related to TRIP. However, you'll notice that I added one additional step to coincide with the request today. And the reason for that is we don't often see pre-award requests at the board. So I just want to show you where it falls in the process. Last month, we talked about the fiscal year 24 call for projects with the 6 projects that were brought to the board. Where we are today is the item in green. Now that those projects have been approved, we are taking them through the reimbursement agreement process. So we're at the tail end of that project, or sorry, of that process. But now we're in a position of being in between call for projects. And so that's where this pre-award item comes in. When we do receive requests related to projects that don't quite fall within that schedule, the trip policy does allow for requests to come in. So this is why you're seeing this request today. Oh, and I'll be remiss. We are going to be bringing the trip policy discussion to you soon based on the comments we received at the last meeting. So you'll see that coming up in the next couple months. And so just a little bit of a deep dive on the pre-award. So this is nothing different from the traditional fiscal year call for projects. The criteria for approval is pretty much the same. The only difference is that staff has 45 days to review those projects before we take them to the board. The one thing I'll point out on here is pre-award requests. Sorry, I lost my spot in my head in my notes. Call for project requests are limited to available funds within the next fiscal year call for projects. So since we haven't reached that step to identify the total allocation available, they are limited to what is rolled over from a previous year. And the caveat is if that project is awarded and approved and there is insufficient funds to cover that request, the city would be responsible for covering the cost of that difference. So that is the big item to take away from the pre-award requests. So speaking on the city of Lewis specifically, this is a table just showing you from the previous fiscal year call for projects, fiscal year 24, what the amounts look like as a rollover. So we can see after the fiscal year 21 to 24 call, there was about a 5 million rollover amount for the city of Louisville. You can see the amounts for the other cities, but I won't touch on those. And then today's request of 488,351 would still leave a remaining rollover balance of about 4.5 million. So there is sufficient funds to cover in this case. Now going to the actual project. So the city of Louisville is proposing what we'll now call L7, the Hebron Parkway Off-Street Trail construction. So this project request is for funding to construct a half-mile segment of the A-Train Rail Trail between Railroad and the new Louisville Kayak Launch. So this is a connection from the Hebron station to a new recreational amenity within our system. So at the time of application, it was at 90% design. It should be at 100% design by the end of this month. Construction is anticipated to begin by early next year, so the winter months. Overall, the project is estimated to be about 2.3 million in construction costs. However, the request today you can see is only 488,000 and some change. So the city of Louisville has already begun the process, and this is just that final amount to get it to construction. And so with that, staff does recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions related to the pre-award request.
If there's no questions or comments, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 3, contracted mobility service, Frisco Paratransit, Capel Workforce Mobility and Collin County Rides Program. And we have Maurice Bell, our COO.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I get the opportunity to share with you updates on our contracted mobility services, which are involving the city of Frisco Paratransit, our Capel Workforce Mobility Service, as well as our Collin County Rides for the city of Allen and Fairview. All of these items are here for a discussion item as well as staff recommendations toward board approval for each of these items listed here, which is roughly 7 of them. If you'd like, I can read through these, or would you like to?
Board, do you have a need for this to be read or?
No.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
You're so approved.
Marching orders
All
received.
right, proceed. All right. So diving right into Frisco. As you well know, we've been providing Frisco services for quite some time. It's 12 hours a day of service coverage, providing service to folks for non-ADA and ADA services for the city of Frisco. Back in March, we made a major service change for this model, where we ended up bringing back some of our assets and equipment and contracting out those services to this with a contractor to the city of Frisco. As you can see here, is indicated in the line graph, we reached requested trips of well over 1,000, and our actual provided trips were close to 900. That is a big spike, and you'll see here later in this presentation where the details are. Ridership from FY21 to FY24. As you can see, the green line there is our FY23 and the blue line is FY24. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we reached over, for actual rides provided, over 900 in the month of May. And as you can also see here, we still see a noticeable increase in registered riders on this program. So it's being well received and utilized a lot more than in previous years. Here is an interesting chart. We've noticed from 23 to 24 our trip cancellations, and some of the focus of our staff and mobility services is to help mitigate some of these challenges. One of which is in FY23, we saw an increase in the number of trip denials that you can see in the green bars there. That was a primary focus for us to transition our services into what we have now. And as you can see, moving into 24, we've virtually eliminated majority, all of the trip denials. But what we also noticed is we have a large number of cancellations. And why is that significant? Well, some folks will book a trip, and that's why you see the ride requests to be as high as they are, well into the thousands. But it's the enforcement of the policies that we've had discussions with the city of Frisco that our team is now introducing to a lot of the ridership, because those trips that cancel late, those trips that are no-shows, actually take away reservations for folks that really need it. And so we are now in the process of working to reduce these cancellations, but I felt it was relevant to share with the board here on our progress in some of the areas and focus points for improvements in the future. Any questions?
Yes. How are you planning to reduce the cancellation?
Well, it's all about awareness. A lot of the ridership is not familiar with ridership rules, the guidelines of when to make a cancellation and how often you can have no-shows and late cancellations. And that seems to be a trend where folks will book a trip and then at the last minute, they just won't show, or they'll call within a matter of about 5 minutes before their trip is ready to be provided. And that impacts how we're able to provide services to those who are truly in need. If we have folks that are, of course, being consistent in that area, then they're provided letters, reminders of what the service requirements are. And if they continue to jeopardize that, then yes, they'll go through a suspension process and a reevaluation from staff to help them understand the impact this is to others in need in that area.
Okay, thank you.
What's the rules on the window cancellation?
In this particular case, since the service is being billed based on an hourly basis, we don't bill them, we don't bill the customer if the trip isn't provided. And so that's something that can be discussed with Frisco if need be, but right now that's not a situation for us.
Yeah, we're providing this capacity on a per service hour basis. So we're not collecting the fare. I think if we were to take a step like that, it would be, you're still going to pay the fare, even though you didn't make the trip. But it's not, we don't bill on a per trip basis. So there's no recouping of costs to be.
I'm just saying, if we're denying people, I just think we need to be careful if there's a limited capacity and people are canceling or frequently canceling, and that's taking up space where we could be providing to others. Maybe they need to be charged.
Well, this would.
They wouldn't cancel so much.
I apologize. This would be very consistent with what we have for our access program right now. And so we're following those very same guidelines. So we're not, of course, trying to create some special situation for other services.
I presume that all of these policies are kind of developed in consultation with our legal team.
Yes,
But I just want to, you know, make sure that we're looking at those policies and making sure that they're compliant with ADA, compliant with Title VI, all that. 'cause,
definitely they
Yeah,
are.
that does sound like, you know, I mean, even your tone when you said it, it's not a pleasant thing
No, it
to
isn't.
have to suspend someone from the service. And it's not something that we would ever take lightly, right? And so I will make sure we're
Definitely,
being
definitely.
very thoughtful about that.
Mr. Bell, how much of our capacity gets tied up by chasing down these cancellations? Like how many lost opportunities get created? And I don't expect an answer, but I'd be curious to know if cancellations impact our ridership opportunity.
We can put something together to share with you at another presentation. And you'll see here later on where some of that gets, I don't want to say it's explained in detail, but I can be able to elaborate as to how that may look. Here is an example of some of the ridership by modes from ambulatory, which you can see is the highest number of folks that are riding service, to walkers and of course, power chairs and scooters and wheelchairs. What we have noticed is that power chairs are starting to increase. We have not seen that in the past. And our walkers and strollers, what have you, that is something that is starting to see a little bit of an increase. And it's something that we have to closely monitor because some folks can transition from a wheelchair to having a walker or vice versa. And that has to be updated on a regular basis so that we can maintain accurate reports. And then here is some more key performance indicators. Our ridership is staying above 2 passengers per hour, which is real good for this level of service. And our on-time performance is staying above the 90%, our goal. We've only had 1 month since we rolled this out in the new service model in March that dropped below that. So this is another accomplishment of the team and the service that's being provided for the city of Frisco. Now, moving on to Capel. This seems to be a consistent service. We have not made any changes. We're still utilizing Lyft to provide these services. This is something, of course, the customers can adopt to anytime. And we have not changed this service since its inception. But some of the ridership numbers you can see here from month to month has dropped from FY23 into FY24. But we do not have some of the details and where our team is currently working to find out what seems to be the challenge with folks choosing to ride other modes. Now, moving on to Collin County rides, as shared before, this is a new service for us this year. We reduced the number of operating hours since taking us on from Dallas Area Rapid Transit. Back then, they were operating at 18 hours a day. But on our service model, we switched it to 12 hours a day and we eliminated Saturdays and Sundays. But in doing so, we did notice that some of the service in the city of Allen and Fairview has readily stayed consistent. And as you can see in the bar graph for FY24, we started in February at over 938 rides. And then we've seen it somewhat steady through the months of March, April, and May. And we started to see a little bit of a drop going into July and August. This service has received a lot of change. And when I say that, the customers have learned to adopt the app booking services to reduce the need of customer service calls. And as a result of that, we've been able to take our staff and actually go out in the field and meet with customers, meet with programs and centers, as well as working hand in hand with the operators that are providing that service. That in itself has paid dividends because we're starting to see a lot of positive feedback in regards to the customer service and the efforts being provided by our contractor. Here's another look at some of the ridership, frequent booking areas. Again, this is for physical therapy, work programs, dialysis centers, medical appointments. But it's shared here that during the first 6 months, 61% of our bookings were through the Ride DCTA app. That is extraordinary. That's great. That helps us to provide better quality of customer service needs when folks are desperately needing assistance. But in addition to that, there were also seeing a rate about 20% of them booking via the mobile app. Some of the features that we have learned out of the transition to our new software, Spare Labs, is affording this. And we're still looking at other ways to improve this and create more efficiency with the use of that system. Here is Collin County Rides operational data. As you can see here, there has been a drop. Again, that's based on the service hours that we reduced. More of that than the overall ridership itself not choosing, but the number of hours a day that we're providing service here. And again, the on-time performance piece, strong, 100% in the month of August. Again, that is a huge accomplishment, staying well above the 90 percentile in OTP. The registered rides continue to grow. If you notice, back when DART was providing the service, there was only 110 people. We're now at 231. So again, the same practice that we have with Frisco and making sure that folks are riding based on their bookings and requests is going to be carried over to here in order for us to be able to continue to maintain strong numbers. To have two rides per hour again in this area is another huge accomplishment for this level of service.
Mr. Bell?
Yes, sir.
When we talk about on-time performance, that makes it look like it's a binary. We either were on time or we're out of time. Is there those folks that 3%, 1%, whatever that is that a canceled ride? Is that a 2 minutes late, 1 minute over time? What happens to those outliers?
It's typically 5 minutes. If the bus is 5 minutes late, then it's gonna ding us in regards to the on-time performance.
Okay.
In regards to cancellations, no. Cancellations are completely removed from this factor.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Now, moving on, back in April, I shared with you the opportunity to take a look at all of our contracts for mobility services. And right now, we currently have 2 vendors in Irving Holdings and Lyft that are providing our TNC portion, and of course, our Go Zone service, which is being provided by via River North. Right now, these contracts are up again here for renewal. This is the purpose of this discussion, to carry us over for the final year of these contracts. And in doing so, we're looking at modifying how we provide these services, how we contract out these services. Originally, I shared with you back in April that we have an umbrella of services within our mass contract. That contract was drafted to allow a lot of different opportunities of services being provided under one solid contract. At DCTA now, we believe the opportunity is to separate these in order to have more consistency and easier opportunities to be able to provide these services and manage them as a whole. So in part, as you see here to your right, the services that are not currently being provided underneath this contract are the bike shares and scooters. The one that is the customer service piece. But as we go into the remodification of these, we're looking to transition our demand rideshare services, which is our Go Zone, and micro transit services underneath the ODR. That has an opportunity to be able to have competitive bids through that process as we put this out for rebid for FY26, as well as looking at our on-call services, which is, of course, our Frisco and our Collin County Rides, what we like to call the ride hailing apps or the non-emergency transit. We're going to be remodifying that to focus on that mode of service. And then the last one is connected transit modes. Again, if we ever get to the point where we're looking to be able to do scooters or some form of shuttle services via autonomous vehicles or car share, you name it, any other modes that could connect to our main modes of services, we want to, of course, classify them in a different contract location so that we can provide dedicated portions to that. With that, right now, shared this with you before in April, our timeline is looking to try and put out the RFP in November. With the idea of getting this thing awarded in March of FY25 in time for them to be able to provide services in October of FY '26. Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. So it's our recommendation to take all of these here and go ahead and make that award.
And Joe, we're gonna have to read out each one of these, right?
Take them one at a time.
Yeah, let's just do one at a time like we did last year.
All right, so that was item 3, which was discussion. Item 4 is an action item. Consider approval of a second amended and restated interlocal agreement with the city of Frisco for transit services for amount not to exceed $425,000 for a period of 1 year, beginning October 1, 2024, and continuing through September 30th, 2025. I will entertain a motion on that item.
Second.
I have a motion to second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously for item 4. Item 5, consider approval of extension of contract 17-03 and contract 17-27 with Irving Holdings Incorporated and task order number 4.4 with Irving Holdings Incorporated for Frisco Transportation Services in the amount of $245,489 for a period of 1 year beginning October 1, 2024 and continuing through September 30th, 2025. Board, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
I have a motion. I have a motion in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, consideration of approval extension contract 17-03 and task order number 4 with Lyft Incorporated for Frisco Transportation Services in the amount of $15,000 for a period of 1 year beginning October 1, 2024 and continuing through September 30th, 2025. Board, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 7, consider approval of a 5th amended and restated interlocal agreement with the city of Capel for mobility services in an amount not to exceed $50,000 for a period of 1 year beginning October 1, 2024 and continuing through September 30th, 2025. Board, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item 8, consider approval of an extension of task order number 17 with Lyft Incorporated for Capel Lyft Services for on-demand rideshare beginning October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025 in an amount not to exceed $28,125. Board, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 9, consider approval of extension of task order number 1 with Irving Holdings Incorporated for Collin County Rides Transit Services for the city of Allen and town of Fairview for a period of 1 year beginning October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025, an amount not to exceed $306,000. I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. And item 10, consider approval of extension of task order number 1 with Lyft Incorporated for Collin County Rides Transit Services for the city of Allen and town of Fairview for a period of 1 year beginning October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $24,000. I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I'm gonna get a drink of water.
I was gonna say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. Item 11. We're gonna discuss the update on the state legislative agenda. I have Mr. Drew Campbell and Byron Campbell, both from Capital Insights, here to present.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, as they come to the podium, I just want to thank these two gentlemen for being here with us today. Ms. Bird sends her regrets as she's out in the conference, but will be back with us next month as we take this item for action. So welcome to both of you and good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to see everybody this morning. Before we talk about the legislative agenda that we want to propose or have for discussion, let me lay out the political landscape real quickly. We've got about 30 new House members, some of which are completely uneducated about transit, completely uneducated about how we operate, how we function, or about how really great a program, great an agency DCTA is. And I think it's really important that we take the opportunity between now and the session, and also at the beginning of the session, to present ourselves, differentiate ourselves from the other agencies that are around the state, and really show, look, we're good at what we do, and we're well liked, we're well respected. I know I've been privileged to be with Paul and his team when they have presented to different groups, political groups, business groups. And the watchword of the day always is those guys know what they're doing, as opposed to some of the other things that we've all seen going on. So I know that many of you have probably met with some of our new members here locally, and you understand the challenge that we're going to face with some of those things. So it's going to be, as they say in the car business, it's an opportunity. But first and foremost, extend the TxDOT Mobility Fund authority beyond 2027. It's something that Chairman Nichols, who's senator from out in East Texas, he's chairman of the Transportation Committee in the Senate. It's something very near and dear to his heart. There's usually about anywhere from $300 to $500 million in that fund. It's a TxDOT fund, but it's funding that they can appropriate in what they call non-traditional transportation modes. And it's something I think it's real important, particularly in this climate, when you think about the fact that we're going to have a $35 billion rainy day fund. And back in 1987, when they originated, they put 600 million in it, not ever thinking it would get this big. And Byron and I were with the controller just the day before yesterday, and he told us that he thinks that the surplus this year beyond the rainy day fund will be about $25 billion. So the state of Texas will have 60 billion extra dollars. So it makes perfect sense that they would extend the mobility fund another 2 years at least. Another issue that's come up, grade crossing, elimination, grade separation, et cetera, with Senator Nichols. There's a lot of that that's going on around the state. It's something that's very near and dear to his heart. And he talked about it at great length during the Transportation Committee meeting last week. And I think it's something that, if nothing else, that we can take a look at and say, hey, we're willing to partner up with you and talk about doing these things and helping him. It never hurts to help your favorite chairman in the Senate. Also, I think these are opportunities that we've got to watch for, innovative funding methods that will happen at the state level that will allow us here in Denton County to expand our rail operations and funding opportunities. These are different kinds of things that you have to watch for as the bills are introduced, things that happen in the Appropriations Committee, and again, looking at the funding mechanisms or how much, what I would call excess revenues, or as someone told us today, the overtaxation that's going on at the state level. I mean, and it's one of the things I like to point out to people when you think about $60 billion in excess revenues. Our excess revenues are bigger than the budgets of 46 states. So it's a lot of money. Finally, support public transportation statewide. As you can imagine, when we sit down with folks from Mineola, Brownwood, places like that, Alpine, Texas, and talk about public transportation, you get a blank look. And they're why should I support that? How is that funded? You know, are the taxpayers being served? Those kinds of things. And we have to work, I think, together with our other agencies statewide to just make sure that we get good support from the state. Then finally, and I think everybody here is aware, taxpayer funded lobbying is always under attack. They think this is going to be their year for eliminating taxpayer funded lobbying, and we would ask that we not support that. Anybody have any questions? I can always make up an answer.
Excess revenue, I thought the state passed some cap on excess revenue. How did the state get excess revenue?
They passed a cap on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a cap on how much they can spend, but there's not a cap on how much they can collect.
Isn't that cap created?
Right.
Isn't that cap created every year? Like they,
It's recalculated every year.
is there
and
a formula for that, or they just?
There's a
create it?
formula for that,
Okay.
yes, sir. And
It's like the
in
last time I saw it was like
Constitution.
12.5% or something like that was their cap.
And they love to point out that their spending growth is lower than cities and counties. So,
Well, how is that when
and-
their cap is 12.5 and mine's 3.5?
well, there's, again, it's the state and the way the state goes about making these calculations.
Fair enough.
And they don't talk about the fact that, you know, we are being overtaxed. Real briefly, I wanted to touch on, and I'm the one who put it here, DART strategy.
Well,
And
real quick before we advance there, I just want to point out that the idea of funding for grade crossing eliminations, et cetera, on the A-train corridor, I think it's a really great opportunity for us. Obviously, we're talking with the city of Carrollton about what their transportation needs are on the surface level and have to be closely coordinated with them on those projects as we get into the specific conversation. So those conversations are happening. We're in a good spot with them, but we want to make sure we're aligned with our partners. So thank you.
well, no, and the exciting thing is, as I said, is Senator Nichols is very interested in helping on this because he sees it as something that needs to be looked at statewide.
Are there any other locations along the A-train corridor that were asking for help from TxDOT with grade separation?
Not currently, but as we get the program management consultant on board, that'll be one of our attention areas is what opportunities are there. Typically, cities are pretty reluctant to close crossings because it eliminates access points and those sorts of things. But I know that we're working with the city of Louisville about at least one potential location. So we do intend to take a look at that. I don't know that all that look is going to be done in time for these conversations, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this, based on the lay of the land down there, I think this is the low hanging fruit. Anything beyond this would be really challenging. I love that you gave me how many more states our surplus is. Because I did the math on just the rainy day fund exceeds 32 state budgets. So I mean,
Right.
it's
It's a lot of money.
a lot. I mean, it is a massive amount of cash down there.
Taking my nod from Judge Eads, I think achievable and concise is really what we want to try to do. But I'm very serious about the fact that we need to be down there educating people about what a great agency this is and how we are productive and how we are really meeting the needs of our service cities. So it's something that they need to hear and we need to differentiate ourselves from. I know that everybody's aware of what's going on with DART. I know that very likely there's going to be 2 different cities with legislation, some of which will affect their ability to continue to collect their pennies. Some of it will, what they will try to do is curb in their ability to bond. I know that Senator Parker, who is our state senator, is looking at carrying at least one of those pieces of legislation. And if you recall, Senator Parker carried in the House our legislation in 2019 when DCTA went through what I would call a rechartering, if you will. And if you recall, we went down there as a united group, all the cities, the county, et cetera. Everybody went down there on the same page. And what we're watching with DART is an internecine war. And you've got members they're, as I would say, Paul and I talk about it, it's their board members who are at war with one another. And they're going to, I think, go down there and try to do some things legislatively. And I think that one of the things that we've got to keep in mind is that we have our own legislative agenda. We have our own members here, none of whom are members of DART. We need to be aware of it, sympathetic to it, but at the same time, be careful with it because, as I said, if we get crossways with our own state senator, that can present problems for us. I think that my recommendation at this point, and Mr. Chair, if it's all right with you, is that we don't do anything at this point. We don't know what the legislation looks like yet. I'm told that Ledge Council should have a copy of what they plan on introducing. So then we can really talk about what they actually are trying to accomplish. And then make those decisions. And, you know, Judge, you've been around a long time. Any comments or thoughts that you have, I'd be very interested in.
Yeah, I would agree with that recommendation. I think DART needs to work out its own issues. I think issues solved locally are always preferred than legislatively. You know, we had to go do that rechartering because we were chartered by the state, but I think any local decision should be.
And we
preferably
came to those
taken locally.
decisions locally, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and if they did do anything, Tan, as Parker has told me, he says, we're only gonna be looking at chapter 452, which our chapter is 460. But it creates some tension, it creates some tricky things that we're gonna have to do, but I still think that there's a lot of shoes to fall. I know Dallas was supposed to take up their legislative agenda yesterday, and they decided to defer for 2 weeks. So they haven't made a decision yet as to what they're gonna do or what they're gonna support. So lots of things in the air. But with that, Mr. Chairman, anybody have any questions, or, and I'll turn it over to Byron and let him explain to you the politics.
Questions or comments? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everybody. Great to see everyone. As he talked about, the importance of us getting our message out and getting DCTA's separation from a number of other agencies is vitally important. And part of that is understanding our audience. And what we have up here is currently a snapshot of the representatives. We've got a number of folks up there that haven't been formally elected. Everyone except for Senator Parker does have an opponent in November. I think that's a first for this area. Richard Hayes actually has 2 opponents. The Libertarian Party put together a caucus and or convention rather, and got an opponent for him. And Ben Baumgartner is he's facing a former state representative that just ran for lieutenant governor. So she had the seat before, and Michelle Beckley. She had the seat before, defeated Ron Simmons, held on to that seat for a couple sessions, decided to run for lieutenant governor, lost in the primary, but she's formidable. She's very organized, and she's extremely intelligent. And I would say he's got his hands full. That being said, I don't think I need to explain too much about Mr. Hopper, Mr. Little. I think you guys are well aware of their politics.
Could you repeat
Sure.
the opponent for Ben Baumgartner again?
Michelle Beckley.
Oh, Michelle Beck.
Yeah, she ran
She's
against
from
Ron
Carrollton.
Simmons.
Yep.
I think in 2015, beat him, turned that seat blue until Baumgartner won it in an open election.
And how did she get on the primary? She was running for lieutenant governor. I don't
That was
understand.
last time. She ran for lieutenant governor when that seat was open 2 years
Okay.
ago. It's
Okay,
off
2 years
cycle.
ago. Off-
Yeah, she didn't win the primary
Right.
and didn't end up facing Governor Patrick, but you know, but she grew her image and grew her base in running a statewide campaign. So she's got some money on hand, and like I said, she's got some name ID. So that kind of lays out what we've got, our delegation up here for DCTA. Patterson, Hayes, those folks we've known for a while and we can work with. We actually had great meetings with them last session. Drew and I have personally sat down with Representative-elect Hopper and discussed at DCTA at length. And obviously, as we get closer to session after November, have a couple weeks, would obviously like to get some of those members up here and tour some of our facilities. We've done that in the past. We feel like it's a great tool for them to actually see it in person, what we do, as opposed to just that agency that runs trains. The next part of this, I'd like to just quickly touch on the speaker's race. As you guys know, last week, a caucus, a portion of the Republican House caucus met and decided to 40 of them select one person, David Cook, who is this will be a second term in office. About 42 nominees and elected officials, representatives, put their name behind David Cook. He's a firebrand, far right, doesn't want any Democratic chairs, wants to really kind of make the House a little more conservative than it already is, which is hard to do. That being said, a number of these folks are still nominees. They've never served in the House, and they still have an election in November. So it's in my opinion, a little cart before the horse, talking about who you're going to vote for as speaker and you haven't even been sworn in yet. That being said, there's about 42 of them, and the House GOP caucus rules, if 3/5 of your caucus says that it gets behind one candidate, the whole caucus has to get behind them. That number stands at 56 right now. 42 to 56 seems close. It's also a long ways away. You can get up to 54 and still lose. But that being said, things are getting complicated. And to make it a little more dicey, Anna Marie Rodriguez Ramos from Richardson, she is the Democrat, has decided, you know what? I went to the DNC. I was motivated by Vice President Harris. I think it's time for Democrats to have a shot at this. Far right Republicans would say that that's a big challenge for Dade, because historically he's gotten all of the Democratic vote. So if you splinter that vote even further, this could be an interesting election in January. What does that mean for us? Well, it means we definitely would have a new transportation chair. Right now, our transportation chair is Terry Canales, is a Democrat from the Valley, who's a good friend of DCTA's, and he's been there for 3 sessions, I believe. Kevin Cook doesn't want any Democrat chairs. That's one of the things he's running on. So we would have to start from a different position with a new chairman of transportation. That's kind of the landscape I wanted to paint and kind of explain. We've got some pertinent dates coming up. One more. There you go. These are the dates that, again, all of you are aware of, but it's coming quickly. And at some point, you know, whether it's with Denton County Days or on our own, you know, I imagine we'll have some of you come down and have some official meetings with our delegation and other folks in power. So that kind of a 30,000-foot view of the House and where we stand. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So thank you very much, Byron and Drew, for that presentation. So our plan would be, based on the feedback here, we'll bring this legislative agenda back for the board to take official action on next month, if that's agreeable with you all.
Agreed. I think the only thing that I might add to the conversation is if there's any categories where you think that they might take off that we haven't really seen. One of the challenges we had at the city was when TSTC came to Louisville to talk about putting a campus. We had to wedge that in underneath our education, like supportive of education.
Sure.
So I just make sure that we've got enough, I think, span that if there's a topic there, just kind of think about it. That
Absolutely.
we can, without having to come back to the board and go through all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's the other thing during session, stuff will pop up that we haven't thought about yet. And so we'll of course be nimble and flexible to and bring that to your attention as soon as it happens.
Yeah, I'm not asking for unlimited span of control, but I think we just definitely want to have some limited flexibility so that we don't get in a bind where we want to make a statement about something, but we have to get it back to the board.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Stuff. Item 12, discuss update on the bus fleet replacement plan and fiscal year 2025 bus purchase. We have Marty Spell back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm here again to share with you the never-ending world of bus procurement. This is an ongoing moving target. I must say that from the very beginning, but we are getting close to finalizing the first purchase in several years for this agency. The items I'm going to share with you today are the base vehicle price as well as warranty to operator engagement, recognized components, based option estimates, as well as procurement process timeline. What you see here is the base price right now that we've been able to identify with one of the vendors. at $533,000 per vehicle. That base price includes a lot of things. So if you could imagine going to spec your next Hummer or SUV and putting it times 10 or 12, that's kind of what we're dealing with here when we're looking at all the different components as well as warranty items. When you see here, off to your right, all the different components, majority of these are different providers, different vendors that the actual bus manufacturer gets in partnership with and that we've got to converse with in order to identify what's going to be in the best interest of DCTA. I highlighted the warranty portion because I wanted to share with you the miles associated and what's considered in the base price of the vehicle. There are some items that we will look at as options, but that is typically based on the environment in which you're going to be operating these vehicles. And for us, thank goodness, our environment isn't as harsh as some other agencies across the country. So back on August 13th, we had the pleasure of having one of the vendors bring out a bus for us to demo. What you see here are pictures from that demo day where we had our operator committee get the opportunity to actually drive one of the newer buses. Although this bus was a diesel hybrid, and this purchase that we're talking about here was specifically for diesel, it gave these operators an opportunity to see what the future brings. One that they haven't seen in quite some time. I think the youngest vehicle we have in our fleet was in 2018. And so some of these operators here have been operating since then. And so it was an exciting day for them to get an opportunity to sit behind the vehicle, get a chance to drive it, see all the new bells and whistles associated with that particular model. But in turn, our mechanics got the opportunity to take a look at the vehicle as well. And it provided some additional insight in regards to the changes of some of the fuel efficiencies and of course, designs that they've made since the vehicles that we currently have. And so this is just a list of some of the features that the committee has actually identified or areas of their concern, from some safety features to, of course, the design of the actual driving compartment, from seats to foot pedals, you name it, the console, all of those were items that were reviewed during the course of this demo. Here is a quick overview over the main items that we identified in the options selection process. From the exterior powertrain interior, we had over 13 of 40 different items. And when I say items, there's literally over 87 items that we got the opportunity to choose and upgrade from what would be considered the base model. And so in this sense, our exterior powertrain, we selected 13, and that is the actual amount that you see there at over 20,000. To the technology piece, which is another aspect of involving other vendors. And thank goodness we got a great IT department, because I don't know if I'd do it without them. This stuff is moving at an alarming pace, and the different components associated. I want to draw your attention to the center picture there, what looks like a cabinet. That is the IT closet. And that is what people like Aaron and Kyler and Javier get excited about when they look at this vehicle, because it provides a little bit more functionality and ease when working on the vehicle's electronics for our needs.
That really confused me, because I didn't see an air conditioning condenser or some sort of heat, engine exhaust right in that space. That's pretty impressive.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, as this conversation has progressed, I think I made this comment to both of them. I said, we're really buying a computer rack on wheels that has
Yes.
seats in it.
That people could try.
Yes.
It's about our drivers,
Yes.
it's about our customers, but the technology backbone that goes into these buses is gonna be critical, because you gotta have what we need for today, plus the ability to bolt on what we need in the future.
Well, and that number there, that 142, that is inclusive of the technology that goes in the rack, or is that just to be able to allocate the space and put the rack system in?
That is, well, let me say this, it's not inclusive. It is the ability to expand over the years, but what we've identified here are all the items that are actually going in there now.
Okay.
We do have the ability of utilizing more space for later on. Javier, go ahead.
It is inclusive of the components that are in that rack, though.
Yeah,
So-
that's my question, because I'm like, okay, a fifth of the bus cost for a rack, no. But a fifth of the bus costs with all the technology that we're
components, that
stacking into that,
includes-
understood,
That
understandable.
includes cameras, network video recorders, Swiftly technology and everything else.
Thank you.
You'll see that here a little bit later. So diving into the exterior and powertrain, these are the items that we identified. I also shared some of the ones that are also considered standard and are included in the base price. As you can see from the aluminum wheels that we currently have on our fleet, we want to maintain that. Those are a lot easier to clean than having to repaint white wheels. And so that's a feature that we wanted to, of course, include in this purchase. From the tires to VHACs, to, of course, disc brakes, which I'm happy to say is a standard option. Some of those standard options do provide us some credits in the actual build, and that is one of them, thank goodness. But of course, the exterior paint, for those of you that don't know, our paint scheme includes 4 different colors. And in that price is the price for up to 4 colors, where the base color, which is of course white for us, is included in the base price. And so what we're looking at here at $5,527 is for 4 additional colors on top of the base color of white. So that would include 5. But in our case, we are going to 4 total colors. But all in all, there's over 20,000 in options for the powertrain piece and exterior features. Here's a technology portion. As referenced here earlier, the Swiftly as well as the Genetec and Access from the camera system, all of the features involving the APC's integration, and of course our soon-to-be LCD passenger display signs. All of those are features that are included in that price right now for this build, and we're praying that we're not going to see too many other newer features hit our desk and say, ooh, do we want to have that? I hear from the operator workstation. Since COVID, I think you all are familiar with how we addressed operator security in that situation. So this is an opportunity to improve for the operators. We all know that operators across the nation run into challenges with security features to protect their interests, as well as the need of protecting the safety of passengers. And so we want to focus some efforts on the utilization of driver protection barricades, as you can see here in that main picture. But also looking at how the console is designed, from easy reach to different buttons and switches, emergency switches on floorboards, you name it. All of those are critical pieces, as well as the most important, the seat. That has got to be the #1 feature that operators are looking at. And there are several different seats, minus the massaging feature that you would probably get in other cars. These are seats that are definitely going to help the operator feel more comfortable for the amount of time that they're in behind the wheel. Here, the customer experience piece. What you see here in the top right-hand corner are the destination signs, and this happens to be the demo bus. I'm sorry, my camera did not capture the LED screens in full feature. But one of the new looks of most buses these days are going away from the amber look, and they're going into the white LED look. They're a lot brighter. It's a lot more easy to see in low light. And so that is one feature that we're looking of capturing, and that's why you see that as an option. The other one is, of course, providing frequency and ease of being able to make a stop request rather than just the pull chain, wanting to make sure that we have options, and especially on our Discovery Park routes, we have the need of making sure that those stop requests are on the stanchions and support arms at the rear of the vehicle. That is another feature that we're looking at, as well as seating, ease of wheelchair accessibility. All of these items you see here were selected for options into this particular build. Any questions here? On to another important factor is training. All of the items you see at the top in the right-hand corner are included in the base price, but there's definitely a need to increase the amount of training because of the age of our current vehicles, and the gap between builds, I want to say. There's definitely a need to increase the knowledge of our operators as well as our mechanics to make sure that we do and continue to do a great job of maintaining and making sure these vehicles go beyond their useful life. We've been blessed. I've had the unfortunate but fortunate opportunity of seeing other agencies struggle in this area. I'm very, very happy and pleased to announce that at DCTA, we're doing a real good job in maintaining these vehicles. So hats off to our team at Bus Operations for doing that. But here, these costs are for the vendor to come out and conduct these trainings. And this is something that we definitely want to make sure are part of this particular purchase. All in all, this is what we're looking at in base price on into the estimated procurement costs. Right now, per vehicle is at roughly $707,000. We do have a board budgeted approval that we discussed a while back at roughly
2,040,000.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This number here is an estimate. We're still playing around as we're working with different vendors to isolate, but this is something that we're looking to bring in line and look at some form of additional funding to help support this. So although I'm sharing this number, this is not a final number. Wanted to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible as to where we are right now, because again, last minute features to changing, of course, this presentation. We wanted to keep you abreast as to where we are at this very moment. Any questions on this? Yes, sir.
The cost involved in training, and I would imagine that we have quite a few diesel-oriented people working on our
Yes.
vehicles. Does that change when you look for, as what was presented to you the other day, a diesel hybrid? And does that calculation come into your
Yes.
spreadsheet that you've got?
In this, no, because this is strictly for regular diesel vehicles. This is what this purchase is for. But in the future years, as we look to other alternative fuel vehicles, then we will be considering that into that price. That's definitely something that we're working on right now and identifying exactly what the needs are as we look at other purchases within the next 2 to 3 years.
Would guess that to find someone that was skilled in these other things would be another recruiting cost or other thing.
Well, we definitely want to take the opportunity to train those that are interested in it that currently work for us. We've got a lot of high performers in our maintenance department, and so we want to give an opportunity for them to be prepared for future purchases in that area.
Mr. Bell, what's the average annual mileage on a bus? I don't know, each route's probably a little bit different, but can you just kind of?
What I can share with you, I don't have the number to be able to share with you right now. But what I can share with you on average, the average speed of our vehicles in our system is roughly 5 miles per hour. And so when you're looking at the diesel as it is now, we have a tendency to force the vehicles into what's called a regen process. Because we're not hitting speeds to allow the engine to go through that. Which is why we are looking at alternative fuels in the later years as we start to do major purchases larger than the 3 that we're looking here. These 3 are going to be 40-footers. We don't currently have any in our fleet, but we truly have a need based on the capacity issues that we're running into on Discovery Park and some of the other routes. And that's why we're looking at these first.
Allison had a question.
Oh, it's not a question, but just a comment. I just want to sort of point out that what we're discussing here really represents like a major investment of time and financial resources in our driver experience and customer experience that hasn't necessarily been part of the conversation in the past. And I just want to say how exciting that is and how much I look forward to the improvements that are going to come with this purchase. So that we'll continue. Yeah, I know folks have lots of questions.
So here's the timeline. Obviously, we're in September right now, so we're looking at the budget and procurement process. Next month, we'll be trying to finalize all the actual pricing and working with the vendors to make sure that we have everything that we need and eventually get to an overall contract approval. At which point, into November and into the later timeframe, all of this is going to be predicated on when the production lead time is going to be made. As you can imagine, there's a lot of agencies that are putting in purchases of 30 to 40 vehicles at a time. Sometimes, depending upon the specs of those vehicles, we might have to sit back and wait. It all depends on how our bus is designed and what features are included that allows us to be able to slide into some of those other builds in the middle because of our low number. And so that number, those dates there from the estimated FY25 to FY26 could change. It could be sooner. It could be a little bit later. So we'll know more as we get towards the end, and hopefully we'll be able to share something into our last board meeting of the year.
Question, will we get them like one at a time? Because they're such a small order?
We could get them all at once, to be honest with you. It's funny because a lot of the way they deliver them is they contract out to a company that actually provides the drivers and they drive them out. They don't put them on a flatbed. They're actually driven that way. They get broken in before we receive them and we put them through our final testing. And so because of this low number, I would believe that they are going to be showing up at one particular time. If you had higher numbers during my time in another agency, they had over 700 that they purchased, and that took roughly a 2-year process to receive those vehicles, and they're receiving them in allotments of about 30 at a time. So that's a very, very heavy load to try and decommission older vehicles as well as bring those vehicles ready to provide service.
Other questions or comments?
On the decommissioned vehicles that these would be replacing, would you keep those as pool use vehicles?
We would like to. That also depends on the funding that we're going to be receiving. Some of the requirements means that we're replacing, and so we would have to decommission one as soon as we get it and report that out per those grant requirements. In this particular case, we might have a need to hold on to 2 in order to be able to anticipate future changes to service deliveries. And of course, that's something that we determine as we get closer to that.
I'll say there's gonna be an art to this and a conversation to be had amongst the staff before we make the purchase and identify the funding, because as we anticipate another phase of the intermediate service plan and more frequency and reallocating GO zone capacity, that requires more vehicles. And so we're balancing all of those things at the same time. And so we need to understand what we have to retain in order to meet what we anticipate might be a next level on service.
Well, and I think to Allison's point, we're looking at larger vehicles because we've got increased ridership, and we've got increased ridership because we went through all of the different things that this board has had to go through to make sure that we're really focused on ridership and how do we cost effectively move more people. So I'm really excited to see how all of those different things we've been doing are starting to show up in the next round of decisions so that we continue to see that upward momentum. So great job.
Thank you, sir.
We have local and regional updates and legislative issues, and that will be our chief executive officer.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is really the opportunity for the board and myself to just talk about whatever is on the landscape. If you want to start us off with what's happening in Regional Transit 2.0 versus the call that we had yesterday.
Yeah, so we did have a call yesterday regarding Regional 2.0. As for those of you who maybe have been hearing about this, it's put together by the Council of Governments looking at what we can do as a region and what we want to present at a state level as far as moving forward. I will have to say that I don't feel like there were a lot of actionables, like things to take down and say, this is what we want to see. I think there's good discussion conversations that maybe can show up in a year or two, a legislative session or two. But in my opinion, I want to be very careful. Some of the DART dissatisfaction is starting to bleed over into RTC conversations that really should be regionally focused. But because DART and its cities are having some contention, we could see where what looks like a regional conversation get derailed by, well, I don't want to talk about, or I don't want that on my regional thing because I don't believe that is the case of what's happening with my city and Dart. So if that gets shanghaied, I don't want to be anywhere near it because I don't want to be telling Dart and its member cities how they should or should not be working together. They did not come in and talk to us when we went through our rework of the agency in 2019. So I don't believe, I mean, and then that's professional respect between the two agencies. So we're going to see where that line is at the RTC conversation and whether it devolves into more Dart-centric conversation, at which point I think we will graciously say, hey, it's on you. I don't need a regional conversation about your local stuff. But if it stays regional, it stays at that level, I don't think we'll have any issues with supporting what's coming out of that 2.0. There were some things I think we could all just gotten in a room and done to Judge Eads' preferred methodology. And I think Paul has helped to identify those things. Those things are echoed in our legislative update that you saw earlier today. Anything that you see in our legislative update, I think will align with the stuff that's going to move through the RTC and be accepted. The big one would be maintaining local funding. That's where it's going to get politically odd because Dart and its member cities are having a conversation about maintenance of funding, whether they want to keep the current levels or change that up. So that's the sticky wicket in all this conversation. But other than that, I do think it was good conversation. I do think it was important to look at the COG and have that conversation. But I also think a next step that's coming out of this is it's all focused on state and big picture. I do think we need to start pushing the COG into how are you going to incentivize other cities, municipalities, entities to become part of a transit authority, because right now your funding model tends to disincentivize. So that's, anything else on that?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll button it up by saying Western Days this Friday and Saturday. So if you don't have tickets and would like to attend, please let me know. We'll get you all handled. Cesar, anything?
You think you handled it all? Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
Mr. Chair, I just mentioned that our Concert in the Park series start on October 5th. That will be a Taylor Swift tribute band. On the 12th, we have a 80s band. On the 19th is our Texas Fallen event that raises funds to provide money to the family members of police officers who fall in the line of duty. And I'm proud to say that Highland Village is the largest contributor of that fund statewide. So 3 great events. And if you're coming from Louisville or Denton, it's an easy train ride to the Highland Village Lake Louisville Station.
Allison, since you've got October.
Yeah, so Denton is celebrating 31 days of Halloween this coming October, kicking off with a pumpkin drop on October 1st, wrapping up with Denton's Day of the Dead Fest at the end of the month. There's a huge number of events planned every single day, multiple events. You can check them out at discoverdenton.com. Also, Denton Arts and Jazz Fest is at Quakertown Park, October 4th, 5th, and 6th. Come check it out. Make sure you ride DCTA to get there, Arts and Jazz in particular. There are a lot of entrepreneurs in downtown Denton who will gladly take a $50 bill to let you park, or you can ride the train.
Only 50. Pat, anything? Kristen?
I was just going to mention that as part of Western Days, you did not mention anything about the dunk tank. That
Why would I take your
Louisville.
Why would I take your glory?
So I just wanted to remind everybody that Mayor Gilmore will be out there in the dunk tank at 8
to 8:30.
8 to 8:30. There you go.
That's Saturday?
That is Friday.
It's Friday. Okay.
Friday night, 8 o'clock.
8 to 8:02. Yeah. Now, just so you know, that is the last shift in the dunk tank. So I'm hopeful that there'll be a nice refresh of the water, because all of the rest of the council will have been into it prior. So this is one of those things where good leadership will result in better results. So if I've had bad leadership, there's, maybe that dunk tank water won't be as great. But Kristen's out there too, so you can, what time is yours again?
We'll skim over that.
Yeah, let's just skip right past it. Okay, okay, I get
What
the
it-
time if you.
What add it's all benefiting serve Louisville.
And it is
Hey, there you go.
absolutely benefiting the purple job, the purple work. So thank you for that, Pat. Anything from the county?
Yeah, so Monday, September 30th, we're having a town hall meeting for our master thoroughfare plan. It's a town hall setting. It starts at 5:30, which for the first 30 minutes is going to be a kind of a meet and greet with our engineering firm, which is Freeze and Nichols, that is doing our updated master thoroughfare plan. And then 6 o'clock, they will do a presentation, and all that is at the Denton County Elections Building there in Denton. So Monday, September 30th, 5:30 is kind of open house, and then 6 o'clock's presentation.
We do have informational reports in the packet regarding safety service and ridership. Microphone. We do have informational reports regarding safety service and ridership reports. So if the board has any interest in those, they are looking good, by the way, so really excited about that. We'll be looking forward to the update as we start drilling into the August 19th numbers. I know we need to get a good data set on that, but I think that's looking promising as far as what we've done for changing modalities and pushing people onto connect routes versus go zone. So that's exciting for the Denton area. We have a update on the A-Train program management consultant procurement. That's out on the street, correct?
Yes, sir. We've received the responses and are in the evaluation process now. Expect an update in the coming months.
Okay, super. We have a proposed 2025 Denton County Transportation Authority board meeting calendar. So board, if you would please review that, see if there's anything that has a conflict, and if so, please let staff know. And then we've got an item there that's an update on the 2025 strategic planning work session. And I think, Keisha, you had sent out some tentative dates on that. So I think we're locking that down. Okay, thank you. 2020 room up at the Denton County. All right. Excellent. Do we have any future items or interest from board members to add to a future agenda? Nothing at this time. Any other community interest items? I think we got that. All right, next up, we have executive session. So pursuant to Texas Government Code, section 51074. Oh, we got a pause. Yes, sir.
Take a few second bio break.
Why don't I go ahead and put us in executive session and then we can do that. Perfect. So pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 personnel matters, the board of directors will convene into closed executive session to deliberate the duties and performance of the CEO fiscal year 24 year-end performance evaluation feedback section. All right, with that, we are in, item 2, I was going to skip. Pursuant to Texas Government Code, section 551.072, board of directors will convene into closed executive session to consult with the general counsel regarding proposed letter of intent with the Amalgamated Transit Union, local 1338. With that, we are in executive session. And let's go ahead and take a quick All right, we are back into open session. Board, is there any action to be taken?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the chair to execute an amendment to the CEO's employment agreement reflecting a 5% increase in the CEO's base salary effective October 1st, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Paul.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a second motion. I'd like to authorize the CEO to execute the letter of intent with ATU Local 1338 at the CEO's discretion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Board, if you would please vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. As there is no further action to be taken on today's agenda, we stand adjourned. It is 11:57. Wow.